Members of a domestic terrorist group called the Wolverine Watchmen planned on kidnapping Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer. They planned on giving her a mock trial, killing her, detonating bombs, and killing law enforcement. This and more on today's Roast This Post. Now, some of them have been confirmed to have attended the anti-quarantine pro-Trump rallies at the Michigan State Capitol building earlier this year. Here are the mugshots for the 13 cousin-fucking bearded weirdos that have been arrested thus far. 13 members have been arrested already, and their goal was to reach around 200 members total, so they obviously have plenty more still out there. It's interesting that their name is inspired by the HBO series Watchmen. It could have been inspired by the show to care more about Black history because of the show bringing up awareness of the 1921 Tulsa massacre, murdering Black people and destroying a successful Black city, which had a lasting negative impact on generational wealth going forward in history, but that's another subject. But instead, they saw this and used this as inspiration to liberate Michigan, kidnap a state governor, and overthrow a government because white people love to invent ways to feel oppressed. According to federal court documents, Michigan's police department was notified of the group's activity back in March this year, after members of the group attempted to find the addresses of law enforcement officers. It's interesting how the FBI infiltrated the group as well. For example, there's tons of times that a racist white dude was a complete stranger, yet spoke to me as if I should agree with his racism, just because we're white. That's why I think it must have been pretty easy for the FBI to infiltrate their group. They were just like, "Hey guys, thanks for having me. Just your average white dude with a beard here. Definitely not an informant. You said your name was Pete? How do you spell your last name, Pete? What? What's this? Bud Light, hunting, guns, Kid Rock, Eagles, USA. Yeah, I knew we'd become friends." Being in the militia is like Dungeons and Dragons for Hicks. They were having rehearsals for this operation. Can you imagine? "Look, Johnny, I'm starting to wonder if your heart is in it. You've been late 3 times this week. Come on, people, I told you. You gotta start with bitch and work your way up to cunt. You guys are doing this all wrong." Many have pointed out that their goal was to start a civil war. But what that really means is they wanted to kill law enforcement officers, blame it on Black Lives Matter and Antifa. White supremacist groups and police officers have a long history of instigating riots, burning property, causing violence, and blaming it on the left, when in actuality, 76% of all extremist-related murders in the last decade have been from the far right. Compare that to the only 3% tied to the far left. In 2019, the far right was responsible for 90% of extremist-related murders, and 81% tied to white supremacists. Okay, so I know hindsight is 20/20, but it seems as if only the police would have intimidated the white supremacist, crazy Trump supporters when they were literally screaming in their face, wielding assault rifles in government buildings, and treating them with just a fraction of the hostility that they showed those who were protesting being unjustly murdered by the police. That maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't have gotten this far. That's why I refuse to buy this narrative that we should just worship and support the law enforcement for doing such a terrific job at putting this to a stop. The only reason that law enforcement gave a shit is because they were trying to kill law enforcement. If their mission instead was to kill Black people, the police would have just joined their cause. Still think the police give a shit? Listen to this sheriff who was actually seen hanging out with one of those white terrorists at the Michigan anti-quarantine protests.
See William Null on stage alongside Barry County Sheriff Dar Leaf, a guest speaker at the event.
We can't convict them in the news media here. They do have a right to a fair trial.
Do you have any regrets from being on stage, sharing stage with the guy who's now being charged in a plot to kidnap the governor?
Well, it's just a charge, and they say a plot to kidnap. And you got to remember that, are they trying to kidnap? Because a lot of people are angry with the governor. They want her arrested. So are they trying to arrest, or was it a kidnap attempt? Because you can still, in Michigan, if it's a felony, you can make a felony arrest. It doesn't say if you're an elected office that you're exempt from that arrest. So I have to look at it from that angle, and I'm hoping that's more what it is. In fact, these guys are innocent until proven guilty, so I'm not even sure if they had any part in it.
Citizen's arrest? That's your argument? You think it's okay to kidnap and arrest a government official because you think that they've done something wrong? If the police themselves think that it's okay for us to arrest Whitmer, why hasn't anybody tried to arrest Trump? It's also important to note that Michigan's former governor, Rick Snyder, ignored a poisoned water supply of his own residents in Flint, Michigan. But between Flint being a largely Black community, him being a man, and him being a Republican, nobody seemed to give a shit enough to try to kidnap him. And no citizens tried to arrest him either. Where were the Wolverine Watchmen then, huh? It definitely seems like a bigger problem for a governor to poison one of his cities and lie about it than some people not being able to get their hair cut. I have to shout out iClub Detroit for this amazing shirt. Once again, thank you Alexis McKay for letting me know about him. In Detroit, there is a statue called the Spirit of Detroit, and it's holding something in his left hand and it's holding something in his right hand. In this shirt, the head of the Spirit of Detroit is a cat, and instead what he's holding in his left hand is a mouse, and then his right hand some yarn that spells out Detroit. Fucking amazing. Check out iClub Detroit. They have tons of other cool designs.
Thank you for watching, and check out my Patreon page where you can find exclusive content updated regularly, and find me at Jeff Horste on YouTube and all social media.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Just your average white dude with a beard here. Definitely not an informant. You said your name was Pete? How do you spell your last name, Pete?